Welcome to Leaders Learning Live. It is officially our summertime program, and hopefully all of you are enjoying your summer so far. I'm really pleased that we have one of our leadership fellows with us today to lead today's topic. This will be a good one, especially if you've served as a department chair. We'll be talking about what's next in an academic and administrative career. And so that is our topic for today. If you have never joined a Leaders Learning Live, I'm so glad that you found us today. We record these programs and we add them to our YouTube channel. So you'll have an on-demand library of higher education leadership topics. So we have been hosting this program for a number of years now, and we've built up quite a library. So if today's topic sparks your interest to learn a little bit more, there is a lot there on the YouTube channel, and I encourage you to check it out and continue your leadership journey. We will keep our panelists on Spotlight so that you can see them, and feel free to either turn on or off your camera as a participant, whatever you're comfortable with. This is the lunch hour, and we recognize you're usually either managing some other things while you're learning, but we do encourage you to enter any questions that you have for the moderator or panelists in the chat. And I'll be happy to moderate the conversation through the chat. So I'll make sure that our host sees the questions, and I want to make sure that you get the answers you came here seeking. So that is the format for Leaders Learning Live, and I want to introduce to you our leadership fellow, Dr. Sue Phillips. So she has been supporting this institute for 6 years. And we've been really happy that she's been a part of this growing institute. And so today's topic is one that I know is close to her heart. She's been an integral part of our Department Chair Academy. And so she cares very deeply about department chairs. And I think that will come through in the conversation today. So welcome, Sue.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. This is a pleasure to be joining all of you, and especially our panelists today, in thinking through what this whole career path looks like. And I wanted to, thank you, perfect. I wanted to introduce quickly the panelists, and I'm going to ask them to speak in just a moment. Alphabetically, we've got Howard Ashford, Assistant Professor of History and Interim Director of the Center for Racial Justice and Inclusive Excellence at SUNY Oneonta. We've got Yoly Gonzalez, Associate Professor at UB Dental. Krystal Jubilee, the Director of Nurse Education at Corning Community College. And Jason Lee, the Distinguished Teaching Professor at SUNY Plattsburgh. Thank you for spotlighting all of those, and thank you all for joining us. Each of you has your own journey to tell, and let me start with that introduction. We'd like to talk a little bit about the different pathways that you might follow, that you might see. Each of us has had a very different pathway. We're going to talk a little bit about career planning and transitions, talk about what it looks like afterwards, after being chair, and look at what people see in the rearview mirror as they have made that transition beyond chairing. So that's where we're planning to go. Let me start by asking our panelists to introduce themselves by giving a brief description of your career path to date. Now, I'm gonna pick on Howard first because he's got A and it's his last name first. So let's start with you, Howard, and tell us a little bit about your career path to date. And then I'll go do a heads up. Yoly, you're next.
Okay, well, thank you very much. My journey to being chair was a little bit, I'll say, like it was not the norm. It was I started being chair after year 3, so I don't yet have a tenure yet. So what happened was that the chair of the department had acted in a manner where the dean no longer wanted to deal with that person. And we had a smaller, and so there wasn't a lot to choose from, but the other one that should have been chair had been chair, I think, in the past, and it did not go well. So the dean really had to go to, I almost say, the next level, those who do not have tenure. So I had spent 3 years kind of like trying to know the campus, knowing how things work, and the dean actually knew what I was doing in terms of trying to learn like what were the ins and outs of the campus. And so she asked me, did I want to be chair? And I was chosen. I saw it as a great chance to actually learn more on the job than to wait until X amount of years went by, then to do chair. So I said yes. I was chair for a year and a half, and then you see the part of being chair that you don't want to see. And I stepped down and left that department because there's a difference between doing the work of a chair, meaning doing the reports and doing the reviews and organizing meetings. That part came easily, but the politics and dealing with people's egos, and that part I was not in. That part I could not deal with, not because I'm not a strong person, but because that's not what I went to school. That's X amount of years to deal with people's egos. So I love the opportunity. I am happy that I did it. So when I become chair again, I now know how to deal with the people aspect of it, in addition to just like the everyday kind of norms of being a chair.
So this is the story of somebody for whom chair came looking for you.
Yes.
Okay, how about Yoly? And Krystal, you're up next.
So good afternoon, everybody. It's an honor to be here today. My name is Yoly Gonzalez, and I'm at the University at Buffalo School of Dental Medicine. So for me, I was a program director, and actually I still maintain that position as well as program director of one of our postgrad programs here at the dental school. And I had completed my HLI training at the Hispanic Leadership Institute. And I think that was critical, because then when the previous chair stepped down, the dean at that time actually called me and asked me if I will consider becoming a chair. And I told him I will think about it, and I will meet with him, shortly. And then when I met with him again, I said, well, I think in a period of 2 months, we can start this process. And 2 or 3 months, I was waiting for the end of the academic semester. And he said, no, it's today or it is not. And I have to, make that determination right away. And I did. I say yes, because I saw that as an opportunity to continue helping my department and helping growing my department in using other hat or in another capacity. Otherwise, I don't know who would be the person taking the position. So I thought at least I can participate and actively help on that. After a year of being intern, we got a different dean, and that was an interim dean, and actually a search was open, and then I applied for the search, and I got the permanent position as the Department of Oral Diagnostic Sciences. Yeah, that was the path.
Great. So both it was approached you, and then you decided you would go after it. Yeah. How about Krystal? And then Jason, you're batting cleanup. Krystal.
Hi, so my role is a little bit different because I'm the director of our nursing program. So it actually was a position that was advertised on like Indeed, and I applied for it and interviewed for the position. I don't have any teaching responsibilities, but I think what led up to me applying for this position was kind of like other people you were approached. In my previous role, I was in a diploma program that is in our local community, and our assistant director was leaving, and someone else on our faculty was going to apply for that position. And I had been, at that time, I think I had been at my place of employment for about 9 years. And the rest of the faculty came to me and actually asked me, would I apply for the position? They saw, I guess, leadership potential that maybe I didn't see in myself and the skills that were needed for that position. So I kind of was like cajoled into applying for the position because they didn't want the other person. So I went through a whole interview process of my peers, and I stepped into the role of the assistant director. And I was actually in that position for 5 years and was at that school for 14 years. And then unfortunately, an event happened there where I felt that I was not supported by administration and I felt devalued. And it caused me to basically say to myself one day, I'm not coming back. It was March 27th, and I came in that weekend, packed up my office. And that Monday, everyone was like, what's going on? And I'm like, nothing. I just did some spring cleaning, because I had made up in my mind that I couldn't stay somewhere where I felt devalued and not supported after 14 years. And I applied for the director job of SUNY Corning Community College, where I'm currently at. And I was offered a position. I've been here for 5 years, and I absolutely love what I do and the current faculty that I work with.
What an interesting transition story. Wow. Yeah. Thank you, Krystal. And Jason, how about you? How did you get to your path?
It's interesting experience. I came to SUNY Plattsburgh about 16 years ago. Actually, I turned down 3 job offers to come to SUNY Plattsburgh. And the major reason was because my former department chair, he was so nice. And this department chair, he really enjoyed his job. And he has been working as department chair for 29 years. Yeah, that is a long time. And I never thought about becoming a department chair, because I feel that he's the right person for that position until, 1 year ago, he said, Jason, I don't want to do it anymore. So I was like, okay, so who will be qualified? So we look around, just 2 people. So it looks like it's the moment for me. So then I become the department chair. So, but I've been helping him in the past 10 years with some department chair's duties, helping review his documents. So I'm sort of familiar with some of the department chair's mission. So that's what happened here. And plus, my son grew up. So I feel that, it's probably the right time for me to do some service for my colleagues here.
But across all of our panelists, there's such a different way in which people are drawn into this chair role. Some apply, some are dragged in, some are, well, guess it's got to be me. A lot of different paths into being a chair. And let me ask a little bit about doing the work of chair. I think, Howard, you started to talk about this, but you may have more to say, and others will talk about it also. As you now look at your work as chair, what do you think are the most successful parts of that? What's the most rewarding? What surprised you along the way while you were being chair? Or I know some of you still are in that role or in that leadership role. What's as you were doing it, what do you think about it? The success, the surprises?
The successful part was I came in as chair when we were doing our review. That's the program review. So the chair that I was going to be moving in for, he was supposed to write our like study of the department, what we had done X amount of years prior, but in a fit of I'm not going to help you mode, he chose to not even write it. So going back and looking through what we had done in years in which I wasn't even there, it was a challenge, but it wasn't as hard as I thought that it was going to be. So to write a whole study of our department that the dean didn't have any types of issues with, that was a big, like, I gotten through this first big deal to deal with. Scheduling the review, getting the reviewers, the job of chair wasn't as hard. It was more a common like sense to me because I had really studied the chair in the years that I was there before. In years 1 through 3, I had studied what he did just for when I became chair. It came a little bit earlier than I expected. The kind of the biggest thing that you do every year is scheduling. And so I start scheduling, really like a year in advance. And so in doing so, it just makes life easier because there are things in the schedule that you don't control, such as the dean saying, you have this schedule I don't like, you need a class here, you need a class here, and a class here. So the earlier you start, when the dean comes in and makes kind of the changes that they want, you're not kind of like in this hurry. And the dean says everything is due by this date. That is a hard date and deadline. So there are many chairs who wait until they get back, and where I kind of work when I'm not quote unquote supposed to be working, and I just get things done that way. So the day-to-day parts of it were actually like the easiest to do. I gave my department kind of a lot of room to do what they wanted to do, knowing that I would do the more technical things that I had to actually get done. So they got to choose their schedule, their day, and their times. I would come in and give them, the dean is going to say X, Y, and Z. I listened to them, gave them a lot of room to grow in the ways that they chose to. So I would say again that it's not as difficult. I think it's kind of like I'm a workaholic too, so I work ahead. So that was different in that. And to get along with your dean is also a good thing. The dean is not there to stop you from doing things. The dean is there kind of as this overviewing kind of person that that has to look at the whole entire school. So get along with your dean. I think that was something that I think came a little bit easier than I thought it would. I had no issues with the dean. We worked well together. So I would say that surprises, I would say that I wasn't expecting it to be that smooth of a working kind of thing with her. But overall, I just didn't go into it like, oh, I have all this work. Oh, I'm the chair. Oh, whereas some people take the title and put way too much into it. When in reality, you're kind of given the things that you have to do. So I would say my experience being chair, as others at my institution, they'll probably say I am the outlier compared to the stories that they have.
Yeah. What others of you? What do you think about the most successful part, or what the surprises as being chair?
I would say that the successful part have been, like Howard, I also had to do an accreditation report, 298 pages I wrote myself without any help from faculty, because I walked into a toxic faculty. It is known that old school nursing has been eat your young. That was the saying. So my dean and we have a wonderful relationship, but when she became over nursing, her philosophy was different from what the previous faculty had been, and they did not like her philosophy, so they butted heads, which resulted in the old director retiring. So you still had some of that toxic culture that was here, and as we all know, that you can have one crab in the bucket and they will pull everyone down. So then you factor in COVID and all those other things, which led to us having a faculty shortage and not being able to take in, students the way we had been. But I think having a successful site visit, also creating a culture that is completely different of collaboration and caring. I had a previous faculty when I started where they could not make decisions on their own. They would come to me for the smallest thing. And I would say, why are you coming to me? Why are you including me on every email to a student? You can do this, but they had been so paralyzed by the previous director. So seeing my new faculty be independent, knowing when I'm not here, that they can still function and, the program still goes on. I'm very happy with that. I think the challenges have been, I came from somewhere that did not have a union. So dealing with a union, having someone who was very poor as a faculty person and having to work with the union to get rid of that person was very challenging. The union can be good or bad, I think, but overall, I would say what Howard said, as far as just having those relationships with your dean and your provost, I feel very supported by them. And I think it's also just my communication style. I think it's important to set boundaries with your faculty and with your students and administration. Like, when are you going to answer calls and emails? I hear some people are like, constantly. I have faculty who they would answer emails at 11 o'clock at night. And you're like, no, because students get used to that. So don't do that. Don't infringe upon your personal time. So my experiences have been very positive, I would have to say, here in my role.
Yeah, nice. Nice. I got to hand it to you too, and perhaps the others as well. Walking into a job with an accreditation or a program review site visit right off the bat is, oh, God love you. Jason or Yoly, how about you? What was the most successful part, most rewarding part? What surprised you? Yeah, Yoly. Yeah, go ahead.
So, one of the most rewarding part was the fact that with the transition that was happening in the department, I'm having this opportunity to work with a group of colleagues creating actually the future of the department, right? Which is great because it's that creative and creativity part that it's a privilege to do that. So one of the first things that I did was meeting with each of the disciplines that are within the department. We have 5 to see where were we in terms of curriculum, and actually how to integrate the 5 disciplines within the curriculum map. So that was great. Another great experience I have was to know each of my colleagues from another perspective. I was previously a faculty member, and now I'm seeing them from another optic. I know more about them and know their particular work in their discipline. That was really good for me, and to maintain and flourish a culture of we are a team in ODS. That for me was very important because, as Krystal mentioned before, it's important to alleviate or eliminate any potential toxicity that could be in the environment that can modify and change your whole dynamics in the program. And with 1 year of 2 years of intern and 1 year of permanent, I actually went to 3 different deans, which that could be a challenge too. But I must say that each of them had great great characteristics, and I always capitalize in what is the good in each individual so that I can grow with that individual as well. So, it was a challenge people thought, oh my goodness, now what is the next thing going to do? And I said, don't worry, I will advocate for our department. And I was able to communicate with the three of them with nothing negative to say. They were three incredible individuals. They are, but right now we went through the two, and now we just start with the third one.
So much of the work of a chair is about relationships. So much is. Oh, okay, Jason, how about you?
At SUNY Plattsburgh, we have a very supportive and collaborative environment here. So our relationship with our dean and provost, and actually they are, in general, they are very, very nice. So as a new department chair, I, just like what Yoly say, I spend a lot of time on strategic planning. So as you know that in the school business, this world is changing so rapidly, particularly with those AI stuff. So I want to make sure that our Department of Accounting, we are on the edge for changes. So we have some brainstorming sessions, for our faculty to get together to talk about our future and what we should do with our curriculum. And so this is something I really enjoy. And also, I didn't realize that actually I'm very good problem solver. So I like to solve problem with some creativity here. And thanks to the support from the dean's office, they allow me to do that. So that's something I really enjoy over here. And as department chair, I try to be transparent and and also to foster a good culture over here, to continue the good culture from our former chair. So there's something good here I don't want to destroy. And something I don't really like is the workload, because I found that even my day-to-day operation is crazy because we don't have a department secretary here. So our secretary is in the dean's office level. So as department chair, I'm pretty much, doing everything on my own, particularly when it goes to a lot of things. So I have to pay attention to many details in, particularly when dealing with students. And I found that I'm not a very good person dealing with difficult people. Okay, one major reason is I'm probably too kind, and I try to think too much, and that sometimes interfere with my sleep. So I try to, so actually the past year, I try to, get myself, kind of detached from that kind of mindset. So actually so far I've been doing quite well, and hopefully I can continue in. I found that to be department chair is really a lonely job. Sometimes we cannot share stuff with people. just cannot talk to anybody, but something I just have to keep that in mind. And sometimes we have to make sacrifice. For example, if a faculty is not doing well and we believe that this faculty should not teach a course in summer, then I would tell this faculty that, we would take one course away. And by the way, I would do the same thing. So I take away my summer course too, in order to be a good leader, for example. So I found that something most difficult for me actually would be the sometimes demanding emergency situations, because we have an online program, and sometimes students they are online, they need help during the nighttime, so there are some situations over there. So sometimes how can I draw a boundary there? So but if something like that happened, then I have to deal with it. But I found that that's particularly sometimes will ruin my life quality a little bit.
So, Jason, you bring up some really interesting points about what you learned about you in the process. And let me open this to everybody in thinking about your career planning. There's the work of being the chair or the director, and then there's what you learned from that experience about what you want your career to look like. So of course, we learn from every experience, and I wonder if you could say a bit about what your experience of chairing taught you about yourself, about what you wanted in your career as you moved forward, or what you didn't want in your career moving forward. And Jason, I'll start with you to expand a little bit on what you spoke about, the kinds of things that you learned about yourself in terms of what you wanted to have in your career or not in your career as you move forward.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Actually, last year I was here in the academy, and I remember I did a test about my leadership style, And my leadership style one year ago told me that I'm the person who is ambitious. And I did the same test actually a couple of weeks ago after almost a year of being the department chair. And I found that my leadership style already changed in just 1 year. So I become actually a more collaborative person. So yeah, and I was quite ambitious. So actually when I took the department chair position, because my department is about 45% of the school business over here. So a lot of students. And so I try to push for many changes, and I found that, sometimes it's not a smart idea to go to the highest level. Sometimes the changes should be done, in the level that I will be able to control. So I learned a hard lesson actually from the faculty meeting, and when I try to collaborate with people and try to push for things forward. But I really enjoy this process, and also I learned something. I learned from the perspective is different. We are. When we're department chair, we have to think of not ourselves, not as a faculty, but as somebody who is guiding the whole system moving forward. So I have that kind of mindset right now. So and also with all things in mind, I feel that my tendency to be an introverted person actually disappear. I used to be introverted, but when it comes to something system-wide, I know it's good for students, then I become kind of extroverted. So I'm pushing things forward, and I really enjoy something like that. Another thing I learned from this is, our workload is crazy. So it's very important for department chair to pay attention to some of your new faculty or some people that are willing to share your burden. So they will be the future leaders out there. So how can we delegate our job to those people and to train those people from now on? And also they will help us, and we will help them to have to make more commitment to our department here. So that's what we want to share.
Yeah, very wise thoughts. Thinking about succession, thinking about growing others, thinking about what works for you. And by the way, I just wanted to say it is possible for an introvert to be a department chair. You don't have to be an extrovert. Working backwards, how about you, Yoly? What did you learn about yourself and what you wanted in your career from your experience of chairing?
So I learned first that I needed to get more training and information to be an effective chair. So in terms of, very detailed administrative tasks that I wasn't exposed to before, I needed to go and, I became a frequent flyer in HR, getting all these courses that they have in order to be more effective in my department and to have more knowledge. And what else did I learn? I learned that, as I mentioned before, creating the future of the department, then training the new faculty, the incoming faculty was going to be very important because they will continue, right? They are the future. And then, everybody asked me, Yoly, what is the next step? Are you going to apply for dean positions? And I said, no, I don't want to be a dean. I am very happy being a department chair. And so, and that's something that I reassure myself that it's not about, for me, it's not about escalating in positions to, what I'm doing right now fulfills me, makes me happy. And I think that I can serve in that way.
Nice. There's thinking about how you develop and how you are satisfied in your current work is perfect. How about you, Howard? You learned a lot in your period of time. What would you say would be the things that you learned about what you wanted in your career and what you didn't want in your career?
Going into being the chair, I did for a time see it as a possible gateway of being a dean. However, I think that my calling in life was to teach, and I think that what makes me happiest is being with the students and to teach the students and to work with them and to watch them grow over time. And I actually find that when I'm not teaching is when I'm not I'm thinking like I don't want to work if I'm not teaching. No, I actually find that having a shared load, which is like a 2-1, is boring. I find a lot of my days to be boring and waiting on the dean to send something down or to finish up some report, but you lose the kind of connection with the students. And as also, I don't have the patience. I've learned, I knew that I didn't always have, I can't tolerate what I consider to be nonsense, and egos to me are nonsense. It's almost like I'm not here to, I say, make your dreams come true or to make you feel good about yourself in a way that I was not trained to do. And while I can collaborate, as a chair, I found that I was a little bit more like A, B, C, get it done, get it done, get it done. And I wasn't as collaborative, knowing that I have deadlines to meet. And when you're working with a department where some of its members are so toxic and angry that either they aren't the chair or why weren't they chosen, once you kind of see like what you're working with, I knew I would spend a lot of time trying to collaborate with people who were not necessarily trying to collaborate with the chair. And I just lost patience with it. I just lost patience with that, like I'm like, it's like I gave you your freedom. You can pick your schedule. You can do this. You can do this. If that's not a...
Oh, I got.
We just lost your sound.
Train has to move on. That's what I kind of saw. And for me, could I be a dean one day? Yes. At a different institution, definitely, because and probably after I've just kind of gotten out of the mode of teaching. But right now I have to be with the students. That's my love and my passion. So that's what I discovered about myself. And I'm glad that I had the opportunity to be chair so early, enough to know that now that I love teaching.
Yeah. So important to know yourself and to listen to what your experiences tell you. Krystal, I bet you have some stories in this to tell also.
So yeah, I see myself in this job as I kind of put it as like a conductor over our faculty, and everybody has a part in it. And for us to produce like this beautiful product or song, we need each person to be a part of it and kind of carry their weight. So I'm a very laid back person with my leadership style. I always tell people, which I think helped change our culture with our new faculty that came in, if you take care of yourself, you take care of your family, then work will be okay. And that's kind of how I have led, just a very trusting personality with my faculty, my admin. And I just say, until you show me otherwise, I kind of let people be. I think the thing that I learned was strategic planning and budgeting, especially now in this age of budget cuts with enrollment being low. I think this year has been very stressful with budget cuts and trying to figure out, how to do what you need to do with less. Also, making sure that whatever you ask your faculty to do, that you are willing to do. As I said, I don't teach. I taught for 14 years, but my faculty knows that I will step in to teach at any moment that I need to. Like, I've gone in and filled in for clinical, whatever you need, they know that I will do. So I think when they see that they have a chair or department head that is willing to also do the work that they do, I've learned to advocate for them across campus, and also to be out there, because nursing didn't have a good rap at our school. So to be out there and making those relationships with other departments, collaborating with the science department and the English department when their classes are being run, even down to recruitment. I'm in charge of working with recruitment for nursing, just because we have our own nursing building that's off campus, and nursing is one of the largest programs on our campus. So yeah, I mean, I think those are the things I learned. The biggest things were like strategic planning and budgeting. Do I like those? No, I really don't. And I think another success that I had that I didn't mention before is increasing the diversity of our faculty and our student body. You know, where we're located, we don't have a lot of diversity, but being able to have faculty that's more diverse, and students, when they see someone in the community that looks like them and also sitting at the head of the table, being very intentional when recruiting students and recruiting faculty has really helped us to grow and to look like what the world looks like. So
Yeah,
I've been happy with that.
yeah. Bravo for that. Yeah, Yoly, I saw you had your hand up. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to emphasize on something that Krystal just said. And, you know, I am in a kind of a different situation, because besides being a chair, I am a program director. I am 2 days in clinic. I am course that, so I teach didactics clinic besides the administrative role. But I think balancing those three arms allows me as well to do any of the aspects that I'm asking any member of my team to do. In other words, I think we should, whatever we ask any other faculty member, any other faculty to do, or a graduate student, we should be willing to be doing it as well. And only be willing to do it, to show them that we do it as well. Because I think having that lead by example is going to be very important. It's just not asking about tasks. It's look at, we can do this task together. And if I can do it, you can do it as well. So I just want to emphasize that, because I think it was very, very important.
Yeah. So much of the chair role is a leadership among peers. Now, sometimes the peers don't always act like peers, but nonetheless, it's a leadership among peers. Let me ask you folks to think, to step outside of your own perspective for the moment, and to look at what external events impacted or led you in affecting your career choices right now. I'm trying to think about, we tend to think that all of our career plans are, you know, what you prefer, and you take your action and so forth, but actually other people and chance and all sorts of other external events play a role. As you look at about your career path in and through and past the chair role, what do you see as either chance events or other people playing a significant role? Might be a spouse, it might be a dean, it might be a colleague, it might be somebody, it could be anybody, but or just you know, COVID's a good one. What do you see as those things that might have affected your career planning?
I would say for me, when I applied for this job and I got this job here, I had not told our current director yet, but we live in a small community and word travels. And she found out before I could tell her. And she told me, her exact words were, "That's a mighty big job for you." So that has been my motivation in helping me, I think, to be successful and look at people in doing things that I did not like in them as a leader, knowing what I wanted in a leader and how it would be effective in my faculty. So that's been very instrumental for me. And by chance, I never saw myself in higher ed. I had my nurse practitioner, and then my husband got a job at Corning Incorporated. And I'm like, Corning, where is that even located? And we had a young child at the time when we moved here, and I was looking for NP jobs, and I just kind of fell into teaching, by all honesty, and then the administrative role, as I told you, and I love working with students. Even though I'm in a more administrative role now, but I still have contact with our students. I left. So one thing I didn't say is that I left here for 8 months in February of 2021 to go work for a company and make a whole lot more money. And they never filled my position here. And some things happened there with COVID and stuff, and that position was eliminated. And they never filled my position here, and they asked me to come back. And before I came back, I went to be the deputy director of public health for our county. And on day 4, I knew I did not like that job. So I learned you don't burn bridges, because the president asked me to come back. But stepping away just for those 8 months allowed me to really just realize how much I love higher ed, working with students, working with faculty. And sometimes it's just not all about money. That I knew that was my true passion, my true calling was higher education. So I think those factors help me to see, you know, where I want to be. And like other people, I don't know, like my president asked, like, what's the next step? You know, do you want to, you know, go get your PhD? Do you want to, you know, be in a more administrative role like a dean? And I rarely, or, you know, ADI. And I mean, I love nursing, and to step away from nursing, I don't see that. I love nursing and I love education. And I think I have the best of both worlds in my position as director.
Yeah. Nice.
To echo
Go ahead.
on that, I think one thing that has, I think, impacted me is being at an institution where there aren't many people who look like me in the roles that I have and occupy. Seeing students of color see that as something to move towards. So that like I think when I tell them that, well, then, which I was chair, they just lit up to see my office. It was so big and a space that they could come to and feel welcome, that it was more than me, that no, it wasn't, that this was no longer about me, but it was about what I meant to others, or what me being in spaces meant. And having 2 jobs on campus at one time, also for non-students of color who may not have never been taught by a person that looks like me, or to know someone in a role that I'm in, I think to be able to at least give them a different perspective of power per se, and know kind of a glimpse into a world that they may go out into, where the people that you will have to speak with and answer to will not always look a certain way. And that, to a degree, has kind of left me in limbo. While I love teaching, do I need to go higher? Do I need to ascend higher and use whatever skills and talents and knowledge that I have to showcase students that, no, you can always go higher than what you may think that you want to do forever, you know, but there may be, you may have a calling to go that's higher, so people can see people that look like you in those spaces. So I think just being around students who are quite, I think, appreciative of the fact that they can go higher too, and that there's an expectation that you continue to do so that they can continue to go with you as well. So with me, it always comes back to the students, and just being in a rural location, that they do look to you, and you do kind of set a bar. And so that has been my influence. It's how long do I stay in teaching before I kind of transition to the next levels? That's kind of where I'm in this kind of like, I don't know, range.
Yeah. Who knows what comes next? Let me move us to thinking about that. And I see a note in the chat. As you look to either that you've already transitioned out of being chair, or you see other people transitioning out of that role, what do you see as the challenges and the opportunities? Having been a chair, you take with you to a next step some of the things that Howard mentioned, or you find it difficult to go back to being a faculty member, or what do you see as you look beyond your chair role or your colleague's chair role, if you're still in the role? What do you see as you look there? Yeah, Yoly.
I obviously it's a challenge to balance, right? But for me, being a chair haven't taken me out of my role as a faculty. So it is an overlap of functions, and I still do teaching with predoctoral students, with postdoctoral students. So I just see myself as a one member of my department that have other responsibilities, a big responsibility to lead, to guide, and to unite us to fulfill our roles in, we'll have the mission of teaching, research, and service, and fulfill all those roles. So I think what is next, for me, the next is to be successful in what I'm now, not necessarily have another position or another, title. If I fulfill that, I will be extremely happy. But if you allow me just 1 second to go to your previous question, because you asked what was critical, definitely many critical individuals in my path, but I want to give credit to the Hispanic Leadership Institute, specifically to President Rodriguez, because I think one important thing that I learned in the Institute and continuing being a fellow is to move for being present in my institution, to have a voice in my institution. They are completely two different things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was critical, and I am very grateful to that. But what's next? If I can maintain and improve the success that so far we have achieved in our department, that for me is fantastic.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. But how about others? What do you see next? What do you see on your horizon next, or you see other people's transitions next? Does being a department chair cue you up for a different role? Does it remind you that you want to go back to teaching? Where do you see that role taking you next?
I would say for me, I probably have maybe about 10 years left to work, if that. So I probably would stay if we stayed here. Our goal is to move south. So I could see myself doing some consulting work in education, because I have 25 years of nurse education experience. While we're here, unless something by happenstance occurs, I just want to continue to grow in this role. There's, things are always changing in higher ed. COVID has had a major impact on education as a whole, but especially nursing. So it's affected faculty, students, the whole gamut. So just trying to still navigate those waters post-COVID, I would say, and to grow my faculty. That's a big thing for me, my faculty and my staff. I'm always one that says, if they leave, it's okay, especially if they're going on to, as I say, bigger and better. I encourage them for that. So just continue to collaborate with them, collaborate with campus, continue to get our program back to where we were when I came. And 5 years ago, we had over 200 students, and now we're a little under 100 just because of the implications of COVID. So maybe a consultant role when I am done here and move down south. But right now, I actually am very happy in my job, and I enjoy getting up and coming here and doing what I do and helping students realize their dreams. I think the career that they choose in nursing is transformational, especially being in a community college and the community that we serve. And I'm happy to have a part of that, and in working with my faculty and administration.
Yeah. It's very, very satisfying to be making such a difference as you go for colleagues and for students. Others, thoughts about where you head next and what you take from your chair role with you in that path.
Yeah, I just want to add something. For me, my planning in life never worked. So I plan for something and then things just turn around. But I did learn something in my life is, if I'm passionate in doing something, I just continue doing it. And when I'm doing so well, and opportunity will find me. So that's my philosophy here. So as a department chair or not, for me is is no different, because I'm still like something I'm doing, but I'm just doing something usually I hesitated to do, but now I know that I'm able to do more. So basically my dimensions of working function has increased after this department chair's position. So I will see whatever I can do. So for example, now I take a position to become a professional exam designer. So yeah, I kind of like this kind of job. And also we have built a successful online program since before COVID, and we've been doing a lot of good things in the past years now, and now I want to continue the whole process to make it better. So there are a lot of things I want to do. So I don't really worry about a chair position. If somebody want to take it. But if they feel I'm the better person to get people together, then I'll be happy to stay.
It's a wonderful sense of self that each of us has to have, because you don't stop being who you are just because you're in a role. And if it's a good match, you grow, you expand some, but you never stop being exactly who you are. I'm mindful of the time. Last words that you would like to, pieces of advice from people who might be thinking about taking on a chair role, or who are thinking about leaving a chair role. What would be your parting advice to some of the people who are listening or who will be listening about your advice and post-chair?
You want me to
Go for it. Yeah.
I will say, be genuine, be transparent, be honest, but know yourself. Know what makes you happy, because if you are doing something that doesn't make you happy and fulfills you, that will transfer to the team you are working with. So I guess those will be my last words.
Yeah.
And
Great.
thank you for having me here.
Great advice.
What I would say is treat the chair you have now, treat them with respect, do as they ask you to do. No, just treat them as you would want to be treated, because when the shoe is on the other foot, you're just going to see that how people will view you and look at you will be completely different. And so you want to give the energy and give the respect to the chair that you have now, knowing that it can flip when you are going to be that's like in that role. And I speak with experience on that one. You may not always get it back, but just treat the chair with respect. And you'll just see that it's a different world. But at the end of the day, it's a title. No one is going to be chair until they leave that department. It's just a title. It's not that much extra money. People don't give you cars and luxury vacation just because you're a chair. Don't treat it like it's this as though like you're wearing a crown or that you rule a department. At the end of the day, it's just a title. You're one of many people who will be chair, and when you step out of the role,
be respectful.
Be respectful, because the people that you step over to get up, you have to see on your way down.
That's great. Last words of advice from Krystal or Jason before we walk out.
Go ahead, Jason. Go ahead.
Just want to let you know that as department chair, remember, you are not just making decisions for your students or yourself. You are making decisions that will have impact on many people. So before you do anything, think carefully and play well. And maybe, just hold the idea, hold your horse for a few days, think carefully, and then plan well, and think about any problems. So maybe get some advice from your mentor. Okay.
Wise, great. Krystal, you get the last word.
Okay, I would say, as Yoly said, be true to yourself, be transparent, and I think lean on others. And also, I would say just be in tune to not only your own needs and emotions, but the room and other people that you work with. That's where like kind of like emotional intelligence comes into play. But it's like really just knowing, as Jason said, that your decisions can impact everyone else, and it's just a job, and you're kind of just overseeing to make sure everything gets done. So don't get too caught up in it, and challenge yourself. Get out your comfort zone. Sometimes there are things that you may think that you can't do or you're not good at, but always challenge yourself to grow, and always be willing to ask for help if you need it.
Great advice. Great advice from all of you. Thank you so much for joining us. The panel is fantastic. I think that each of you enjoyed listening to each other, as well as hearing these really interesting stories of the career paths of these four really exciting colleagues. Thank you so much. I know, Carolyn, you have been putting information about how to contact us, as well as the next steps in the chat. Anything you want to hand off at the last minute? I'll let you back to you.
Thank you. Just thanks to everyone who's joined us, the audience, for staying engaged, and we invite you back for a future program. We've got the rest of the calendar year planned out, so we've got some really great topics. I put the link to the Leaders Learning Live page in the chat, so feel free to check that out and register for anything that you would find helpful. Our very next program will be led by Dr. Jack Oliva, and he'll be talking about cabinet dynamics. So that is the third Thursday of every month. That'll be July 20th, and it's always from noon to 1. We record them, and there are a lot more topics that have already happened. I encourage you to do some summer learning, and just keep on being kind to one another and coming back for more learning from sales. So thank you, Sue. Thank you to our panel. This has been great.
Thank you.
Great job, guys.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Thank you.